Welcome to the Unknown Options. My name is Will, and today we have one of my good friends, Eric, a recruiter in FinTech. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Eric. And nice to have you today, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm a technical recruiter, so I work in talent acquisition at a financial services company. My whole background is in technical recruiting, so I started my career at an IT staffing agency, recruiting mostly IT people, but marketing people as well, like full-time people and contingent, like contractors to go work at companies. Left that to go work at um, to do internal corporate recruiting at a very large insurance company. And then now I'm at a financial services company doing the same sort of like recruiting in house, looking for like IT engineers, like software engineers, cybersecurity engineers, that sort of thing. And I'm loving it. So I'm super excited to have this conversation and answer some questions you might have and maybe just talk about anything that's on your mind.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that intro. I guess I like to start from the basics. So it's kind of self-explanatory, I guess. But what if someone that's living out like in a very rural area? What is technical recruiting?
Yeah, so technical recruiting, a lot of people see the word technical and they think automatically, oh, it's technology. But technical recruiting really is it's a sort of recruiting to where you're looking for really specific technical hard skills. So that could be anything from, what you think it is, like software engineering, but it could also be really specialized accounting recruiting, or it can be really specialized recruiting for people with very niche marketing and analytics skills or business analytics skills. Data analytics skills kind of fall into that too as well. So like it's really just searching and doing active recruiting for very hard to fill positions. I think that's the best way to summarize it.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, and I guess tell us your path. Maybe let's go start at high school to college and see like were you always looking to be a recruiter or I guess you're like acceleration towards. I know you said you're working it for your whole full professional career. So I guess tell us your path of getting to that.
Yeah, no, I didn't see recruiting coming at all. It was a complete surprise to me. So I guess you said you wanted me to start at high school. So graduated high school, ended up going to college. We went to college together, so just in case people were wondering.
Serious.
I went into undergrad thinking I was going to be a business major. Ended up switching my major to communications. Just could not get a footing with business. I found it to be extremely difficult. And it just wasn't really engaging to me. I always knew that I would be talking for a living. And so I thought communications would not only be an easier path to graduate, but also I thought it would just be a better fit towards like my skill set. So I ended up switching my major from pre-business to pre-communications, ended up declaring communications as my undergraduate major, and that's what my degree is in. So my degree is in mass media communication. So when I graduated, my plan was, hey, I want to try to get a marketing job, some type of PR job, digital marketing specialist. So that's the sort of roles I was targeting. Just had a hard time finding people to even give me a chance to even, set me up for an interview. Throughout my time in college, I had did a marketing internship, a sports marketing internship connected to my school through my school. And then I also had the privilege to do an HR internship at a retail corporate office. And so and I took the HR internship, not because I was interested in HR, but just frankly, just because my GPA was so low that I knew I needed work experience on my resume if I wanted to get a job. So
Okay.
I took this HR internship, completely disinterested, just wanted to get something to block my resume and
Mm.
to say, hey, I have some work experience. I did two internships. Hire me, please. At the HR internship, I actually um, learned a lot, but just found out standard HR was not for me. I did
Okay.
not find sitting in long meetings with insurance providers to be fun at all.
Mm.
One thing it did teach me was how to talk to people on the phone about really critical, hard moments in their lives and how to connect with people. Um, and so I learned a lot about that internship, but I decided, hey, this HR generalist thing isn't for me. And so I just graduated, not really sure what I wanted to do, but I did have a really good experience with the corporate recruiter there. And I remember thinking, I think I want her job. So after I graduated college, I completed that HR internship, and I decided, hey, I think I'm going to pursue recruiting jobs. I had a really good friend who I grew up with, who was working at an IT staffing agency at the time, not the one I joined, but he was working at a different one, and that was the first interview I actually had in college, was with his company. And I didn't end up getting that job, but it opened me up to the world of IT staffing and staff aug and, just all the money that could be made in it. And I knew nothing about it. And so that's when I decided after, shadowing that organization for a morning and then interviewing with the team, I said, hey, I think I want to do this. I think I can do this. Found a firm that really took a chance on me. It was a mid-sized IT staffing agency. I worked there for a year. And then, they taught me everything. They taught me how to recruit from the ground up. So I fell into recruiting and ended up loving it. And it wasn't expected. It wasn't planned. You hear that all the time, that people just fall into recruiting. I loved it. And I found that I love talking to people for a living and getting paid to do it, and just, giving people opportunities that they've been hunting for and looking for. And so it's been really fulfilling. So that's my journey, man. It wasn't really planned out. But I'm in a place now to where I'm fulfilled, and I wake up every day fired up, excited, and passionate about the work I'm doing.
That's great. We love to hear that. We love the transparency, because most people hate their job.
Yeah.
So it's good to have someone on here that loves a job. I guess one question before we get into like the day-to-day and all other stuff in the job. Do you think college, or is college required to get that position?
It depends on what you want to do. I think if you want to get into, well, first of all, to answer your question more directly, just to be super succinct, it's not required to be a recruiter. I think the main things that are required to be a recruiter are the ability to work hard, the ability to, just when you're working to fill hard positions, just having the ability to, reach out to people, feeling comfortable talking to strangers, trying to put the pieces together, to actually find someone who is a good fit for a very hard to fill position. So hard work, the ability to, have drive and be self-motivated and follow through and do what it takes. Like, those are the requirements, not an undergrad degree. So that's all I think. I think you can teach someone the basics of recruiting in 4 weeks. It's just a matter of, refining those skills over time, leveraging different tools to better effectively do your job, and then just over the time become better at negotiating and things like that. So I think that, practically you don't need a degree. I think, unfortunately, we live in a world of gatekeepers. And I think that if you want to get into corporate recruiting, talent acquisition, which I'm in, it's very hard to get into that without a degree. But if you want to get into IT staffing, or maybe search firm recruiting or headhunting, through a firm, being a recruiter there, I think that barrier to entry is a lot lower, and that honestly provides you with the best training you can get to just be an amazing recruiter in general, but also just a phenomenal recruiter, especially if you transition to the corporate world.
Okay. I got a follow up on that. Like you said, there might be a barrier to entry into the corporate recruiting. Do you think that can change in the future? Because essentially I had a little debate on certifications versus college degrees. And obviously certifications don't apply to this career, but it's obviously I guess a lot of people are saying college isn't worth it, or the student debt is out of control. So will that barrier to entry, do you think it will slow down in the future, or do you think it will grow? Because this.
Wow, that's a really thoughtful question. Thanks for asking that. It's important to think about these sorts of things. I'm an optimistic person, but I think realistically, I don't see the barrier of entry for recruiters, corporate recruiters, changing within the next probably 10 to 15 years. I don't see that changing, but who knows? Maybe after 10 to 15 years, it will. Just because I think HR serves such a purpose in laying the groundwork of establishing a culture within an organization. Like you're literally hiring the people who will run the company. And so I think because the value add is so large, it's going to take a long time to transform the mindset of some organizations to just be willing to take people without degrees and train them up.
Okay, that's a great answer. So now we'll move on into your actual job. I guess give us like I guess your day to day currently, and then obviously you moved up, you switched, you've been to different same job at different companies. I guess show the evolution of the job too to where you are now, if possible.
Yeah. So you mean the day to day of like what I do now, or the day to day of what I've done in the past, or all of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah,
of it.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Educate.
no, that makes sense. Yeah. So like when I started my job as a headhunter, well, not as a headhunter, but like as a technical recruiter at an IT staffing firm, that my days were always routine. So as you know, you wake up, you start your day meeting with your team of recruiters and your recruiting manager, looking at the clients that you're servicing. Usually recruiting, I would be assigned to one specific position or a handful of positions that I'm responsible for recruiting for and filling for a client. So it's a lot of LinkedIn searching and looking for people on the internet to fit like engineering roles that would be open and that sort of thing. So using a lot of different tools to find people online and find resumes, and going through my network to email people, text people, call people, get people on the phone. So especially back in the IT staffing days, it was all about get people on the phone. Cold call, because because and for people who aren't familiar with IT staffing, it's base salary and commission, and so like if you really want to make a lot of money, which you have the ability to do, placing people in jobs is how you make your commission. And so back in those days, I was just calling people all day long, left, street, and right, man, just trying to find my money and pay my bills. So it was definitely a hustle and bustle environment. It was metrics. You had a ramp, you had a quota, you had a certain amount of money you had to make for the organization. And so that was a very good environment because it taught me how to work under pressure. But I just realized long term that I'm just not built. I wasn't built for IT staffing, and I was built more so for a corporate recruiting position to where I could focus, maybe not so much on like, being operating in like a sales-ish capacity or maybe like a quota-ish capacity, but more so on just providing a good, filling needs internally, like what I do right now as a corporate recruiter. But maybe like, at a slower pace where it's not, my money isn't directly tied to how many people I'm hiring. Yeah. And so like now I start my days vary. Like no day is exactly the same, but there is a lot of the same stuff, if that makes sense. So like, it's some variation of depending on the day, but some variation of meeting with, my hiring managers, my leaders within the business, my business partners, examining our talent needs, looking at positions that are open, creating a plan to fill those, finding talent, setting up interviews, identifying people for hire, getting offer letters together, negotiating compensation, securing talent, getting them onboarded. It's some variation of like all of that. So it's kind of fun. It's fun because there's so much that I'm responsible for that I always know that I know what I'm responsible for, but you get hit with so many things throughout the day. It's kind of random. So I like it because it keeps me on my toes and I never really know exactly what to expect, but there is some sort of routine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like throughout your careers, like the job has developed into like a wide range of I guess emotions, and that's good though. Like, cause me, I know I hate monotony. Like I hate doing the same.
Me too. Me too.
Thing every day. It literally drives me crazy. So that sounds awesome. Okay, so I mean, I guess if you were you're young, obviously. So if you were a younger Eric and you were 18, you were just graduating high school, you have like the I guess the ideal options, or not ideal, just the options that are always presented to us: college, like in military. That's what presented to me is college, military, or work.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's trades, there's hopping right into the workforce. Would you do anything differently, or yeah?
Great question. Wow. You hear people say like no regrets, no regrets. I don't know. Like I would do a lot of stuff differently. First of all, I would take my classes and education and my college education a lot more seriously. Um,
Why's that?
because I even though I graduated, I didn't take college very seriously, and I should have. I think the discipline it would have given me to, pursue excellence and not just get by would have given me a lot better foundation to start my corporate career. And rather than like trying to develop that discipline once I graduated and took on a full time job. So I would say like I would definitely want to take my school classes more seriously in college if I could redo anything. Um, but otherwise, besides that, not much. While I did that wrong, while I did the academic side wrong, I did a lot right. I had two internships um, in college. One of those internships, um, I met. So one of those internships was the HR internship I talked about. And while I was at the
Mhm.
HR internship, um, I got connected to um, like a HR benefits software company um, team, and the people from that HR software benefits company um, ended up being bought by a large insurance company, which I would end up working for about 2 years later. So like I did a lot of things right when it came to networking. And like I kind of made a joke earlier, I kind of knew in my career that like because my GPA was so low, I would have to get out there and bust my butt to get some experience. And so, like, I made some really good connections. I said yes to a lot of stuff, even stuff I didn't really enjoy, and it opened doors for me
Oh,
by God's grace. And like, um,
yeah.
so yeah, no. So like, I would take school more seriously, but outside of that, no, I would keep doing everything I did. I would say yes to some random stuff when it comes to professional opportunities. Figure out what I like, figure out what I didn't like. Um, my advice to people would be, if you're in college and if you're not sure what you want to do, say yes to everything. You can always trim the resume down. You can add stuff to it when it's time to, apply for a
Mhm.
job. So there's lots of jobs I had while I was in college that I didn't really, that I don't show on my resume anymore. But I would tell people just go for everything.
That's a really good tip. Like that's a really good tip. And I think a lot of people when I ask that question, I like the census is like to do better in college. I don't know if we were all just like below average students, but that's because I know I said the same exact thing. But it's definitely the census. Okay, we're almost done here. But I guess one last question about the job is what's the possibilities for growth within like that industry per se? It's like because I know like I work in sales and it's kind of like in sales, you can be like a field salesperson or a sales manager. It's like you either those two, and you're kind of like you're done. So like, what can people expect? Like starting where you started and where you're at now. What's the path, the routes that you can go out to?
Excuse me. Yeah, no. So there's tons of growth opportunities. Well, so I'm a talent acquisition technical recruiter. Um, really, there's so many opportunities. I would say if you want to stay within talent acquisition, you could go the senior recruiter route and then, get promoted to recruiting manager, director of recruiting. If you want to stay in recruiting and then move to something else, you could potentially go, move from like a recruiter to an HR business partner to, director of HR. What I always say is if you're been recruiting for a few years and you just want to try something different, but you not really sure what, but you want to stay in HR, you know, stay a recruiter, and then take a job as an HR generalist. That if you take a job as an HR generalist, do that for a couple of years. That'll put you in and really become familiar with holistically what it means to serve a business from an HR standpoint, meaning being a benefits expert, compensation expert, recruiting expert, really holistically understanding what it means to service an organization from an HR standpoint. You can, you do that for a number of years. You can write your ticket anywhere to go be in leadership at a world-class organization. So there's tons of opportunities. And I would say that I always joke with everybody, and I say the talent acquisition is like the fun cousin in the HR family, because it's not as stuffy. You're not sitting looking at spreadsheets all day. I talk to people for a living. I get to change people's lives, and give them opportunities that mean a lot to them. So it's the fun part of HR. And then if you're looking to get more serious or just try something new, there's tons of different growth opportunities.
Okay, great. Okay, this is like the last, it's kind of like a speed round, but not such speed round.
Let's do it.
On how you answer the question.
Let's do it.
So the first question is, are you underpaid or overpaid?
Oh, man. Decline to comment on that.
Okay. The next question is name one person, book, or event that changed your life, I guess the trajectory of your life.
Whoa, person, book, or event. I love that question. Wow. There's so much stuff that has changed my life when it comes to literature. I'm a Christian, so there's tons of books that have really changed my life and perspective on things. I would say The Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster is a really good book.
Okay.
I would say Live No Lies by John Mark Comer really gave me some perspective.
Expound on one of those books and why it was influential.
Yeah. Man, I love them both. Let's talk about the Celebration of Discipline. So Celebration of Discipline is a Christian book that just really talks about the classical disciplines of Christianity, like prayer, fasting, meditation, all these sorts of things that aren't super glamorous and sometimes feel like work and feel laborious, but just the dividends that they pay for you long term in life, and the need to not let them escape you, because especially in the West, we live in such a world of comfort, and how if you create systems to where you're constantly exercising these disciplines, it's actually not work. It's actually a form of worship, and is actually a form of service to yourself, because it's helping you realign yourself, and it's a reaffirmation every day and a reminder to yourself of who you are and your identity and the role that you play in this world. I think it's so easy, especially living in the world that we live in. We live in a world that worships sin. We live in a world that worships self, and it worships self-identity and self-actualization, which I don't really believe in. I just love how the Celebration of Discipline refocuses our focus to worship God rather than ourselves. And it just reminds you of who you are. And then Live No Lies is just, Pastor John Mark Comer. He was the former pastor of Bridgetown Church out in Portland. And, it's just a reminder of just some old classic truths that are thousands of years old, that the enemy of the soul, he tempts us with, nothing but the same tools he's been tempting us with for thousands of years, the love of the world, the flesh, and the pride of life. And so the goal and the sort of thesis of his book is to remember to not live lies, and but to remember the truth. And so I highly recommend that book, and highly recommend as a pairing, if you're going to read that book, read Talking Back, a Monastic Handbook for Combating Demons by Evagrius of Pontus, who is part of the Desert Mothers and Fathers movement.
You're gonna have to text me those books so I can put them in the hyper.
Yeah, man.
The name, because I want to get them myself.
Yeah, man.
Okay, nice. Okay, that first one sounded really interesting. It sounds almost a little bit like a Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Oh, yeah, I think it came out in the 70s or something. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I watched the video TV special he did in like the 70s, and how relevant it is. I watched it like last year. I watch it every once in a while, and it's like it's grainy, like terrible photo. He's going through the chapters
Yeah.
of his book, and it's so relevant to this day how he just talks about the need to even just fast from entertainment. He's like, the TV's taking so much of our time, and like this is the 70s, and he's like we're so consumed by the news. It's so good to just fast from the news, and like you hear all this stuff about people fasting from Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, maybe there was, maybe this has always been true, so I don't know.
No, that's true. I know me. We can go on hours
Oh yeah.
on this
Oh yeah.
on this
I'm gonna tone it
topic.
down.
But you're good. No, I know your phone might die soon. So I don't want to. We'll get to the last question. But maybe you might be on again. Maybe we do.
Let's do it, man. Absolutely.
Okay. The last question. This, I guess you can either answer it short or long. But I mean, how would one? I mean, young, middle aged, older. How would one define older? Get into maybe not your role, but maybe that role that you started in. What's the path? Like maybe they have a degree already. I guess we can go that route, and then maybe if they don't have the degree too, so we can hit both aspects.
Yeah. So like if you're looking to move into being a technical recruiter, at an IT staffing firm, I would say first of all, like probably move to a major city. That's where they usually are because their clients are there and they need to be face to face with their clients a lot of times. So you want to move to a major city where they'll be located. I would say, if you're gonna do it, understand that it's going to be a metrics heavy environment where making money is going to be the number one prerogative of the company. And then by proxy, it will become yours if you still want to remain employed there. So just know that you might go into a high pressured environment, but just know that if you can make it there a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's going to be the best training you've ever had. And if you decide to ever transition into the corporate environment, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of all of your team members, especially if they started their career directly in corporate recruiting. So if you have a degree, I would say that's what you should do. If you don't have a degree, I would say build as many connections as you can with people who are in the industry. Work a job or work a couple of jobs to demonstrate your work ethic, and then build a career and reputation where people will vouch for you and get a list of recommendations and prove why you deserve to be in the room, and somebody will give you a chance. I will say it's an industry where money is to be made. The staff augmentation, contingent contractor worker marketplace is very large and very profitable. So some firm will pick you up.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that. We're right under 30 minutes, Eric. I mean, if you want, give people like a little, I guess like an outlet to reach out to you if you feel comfortable, like maybe like your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So people that are watching this can give you a follow, maybe a message.
Absolutely. Everybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So my name is Eric McLeod III. We'll shoot my link in the show notes or whatever, but definitely add me on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me personally, add me on LinkedIn and shoot me a note. More than happy to talk to anyone. I'm not above, like if you ever want career advice or anything, just reference Will. We'll set up a 15-minute call. I'm more than happy to spend some time with you and talk about your career goals and see if I can be of any service.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Eric. Thank you for joining us on the Unknown Options. That's episode 6. Please subscribe. Follow and link up with Eric. He'll be on again in the future. It's not the last time he'll be on here. But thank you all for joining us. Y'all have a nice night.
Thanks for having me.